Hello and welcome to another episode of The Metaphysical Life, where we talk about all things relating to body, mind, and spirit. My name is Nicole Kaye, and today I have a wonderful woman named Mishelle Bee, who I brought on today because I really wanted her to share her journey with you. She has some unique stories. She's got some great stuff happening, and I want her to come on. So, hi, Mishelle.
Hello, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. So how about we start with just sharing about your journey and your spiritual journey and how you got to be where you are today?
Okay, yeah, well, so I was brought up a Jehovah's Witness. So that's kind of, I consider that kind of quite a strict religion. And I think looking back for me, it's so funny because I'm in a completely different place than what I was back then. So we had to follow lots of rules. We used to go out door knocking to sort of spread the message. I had a belief in God that was sort of passed down to me, I suppose, but that belief that God is a man in the sky, that we have to obey, otherwise we get punished. I didn't believe in the Jehovah's Witnesses teach that once you're dead, you're dead. So there was zero connection. I didn't know I had a soul, or there was no connection with myself. So although my mum and dad did the best they could, my upbringing was sort of typical authoritarian, kind of punishments and smacking. And I lived in a fear of my parents, really. And there was no sex before marriage. So I got married at 18. To kind of not the first person that had me. That sounds really harsh, but it was not what I wanted. But anyway, so there was all that when I was younger, and at 22, I decided to leave everything. I just had well, I didn't think about it. I just knew that I had to just get away from it all. So I left everything, and I got disfellowshipped, which is basically shunned. So everyone of my family and friends that I'd ever known had to treat me as dead. So I smile because I am, as you can see, I'm all right. And my family are still in my life. In fact, my mum and dad, after 60 years, left the religion just a few years ago, which is just so funny and amazing. But at the time, it wasn't funny and amazing. I was struggling with alcohol. I started sort of using alcohol on a regular basis, and I moved in with a guy that I didn't know, and just everything that I was never allowed to do, I went and did, and just lived this life of chaos and debauchery, really. And just spent most of my 20s. Well, I went on holiday in my 20s and met my I say husband. We're still married, but we're separated. So all this drama in my life. And what happened sort of spiritually, I suppose, was I still believed everything up to the age of, I'm 40 now. When I was 36, I think it was 36. Yes. When I was 36, up to that point, I believed everything still that the Jehovah's Witnesses taught. I believed that the same thing that they do is that God will bring a war onto earth called Armageddon, and everyone that's not a Jehovah's Witness will just get destroyed and all that kind of thing. So, but in the end, I kind of used to speak to God and say, well, do you know what? Fair enough. Just kill me then, because I just thought if I had a choice, I'm not going to do that. Obviously, I'm skipping out loads of stuff in between drama, because I can share that I'm one of the very first people in the UK to actually sue the church because of sexual abuse. It's probably not something we need to go into now, but they basically settled and offered me money to stay quiet and not share the story, which I find really funny. Just my voice, so precious to me. I was like, no. But I let that go. That was 5 years ago. So that's another decision I've made recently, to let go of the baggage and the drama, the whole blame and judgment thing. Because if it was me now, I wouldn't have taken him to court, but that's just the process. And So yeah, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, I watched after a really weird sequence of events where it was someone on Facebook from the other side of the world, Colorado or something, told me, go and watch The Secret. We were having a conversation about parenting. She said, have you seen the film The Secret? And I was like, no, okay. So I planned to watch it, watched it. And that was the game changer. There's something must have switched in my mind.
Right.
And from that moment, I have been so excited about learning about reality, how we create our own. That concept never even entered my head. Like I had a whole life of powerlessness, and this included after having my first child in 2012, husband sort of having a bit of an affair and having this baby, just thinking my life's over, just really in a dark place. That's when I first got a life coach. But even she was not at the time. She's now a spiritual life coach. At the time, she wasn't. She was like a normal mainstream, not mainstream, but not spiritual. And I remember saying to her, I'm not into any of that spiritual stuff, thank you. And it's funny enough. So I used to run. See, we were brought up to believe that if you meditate, demons will get in your head.
Oh, wow.
So meditation wasn't even a thing. It was just, why would I do that if demons would get in my head? So, and if anyone on the street came to offer me a crystal, I would literally run. Be like, run away from those, there's shops that sell crystals and you can smell the incense. In the UK, they're like nice, spooky shops. And now I just love them. But I used to cross the road and just run because I was terrified of spirits and things like that.
Right.
That was just ingrained. So it's taken me a while to get over that kind of thing. So that what happened after watching The Secret and suddenly thinking, wow, I have just gave me a sense of I have some power that was just never even a question. So I thought I'd put it to the test, and The Secret being The Secret. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend it now because there's so much more, isn't there, as you start to, than that. But it was a great entry, a great doorway for me. But the second book I read was, again, from somebody randomly recommending it to me, someone I didn't know, asking it's given by Abraham Hicks. And I ordered the book, and the forewords by Wayne Dyer, who said, keep this book with you before you read it, keep the energy. And I was like, okay, I didn't obviously back then understand anything to do with energy, but I did. And as I started reading it, Esther started saying about when Jerry, her husband, used to use the Ouija board and go to someone who channeled. And because I didn't know what the book was about, even after those first few pages, I was like, oh, it brought up so much fear. I thought, this is a demon book. Why am I reading this book? But I so wanted to read it. Like I so wanted to read it that I just said, right, Jehovah. So this was my God. That you've got 24 hours to give me a really good sign. I never spoke to God like this before. You've got 24 hours. Otherwise, I'm going to read the book. No, and I gave God some examples as well. I was like, right, you could get your dad to ring me, or you could do this. You could easily now show me, because I really want to read it. Anyway, nothing happened. I read the book, and since then I've just been devouring everything I put my hands on about not just the law of attraction. I went through that route, but then conscious and spirituality. I read Conversations with God, which blew my mind, with Neil Donald Walsh. And then I've just been on ever since. And I've not ever come down from that. Like I knew then I need to tell people about this.
That's right.
But my fears have been, I used to go door knocking to tell people about this. What, am I just pushing it, or am I getting it wrong? But the difference is, I feel this and I know it. Back then, I used to fake ringing the bells because I didn't know what to say to people when they answered. I don't really know what the message is. It didn't resonate. So that's sort of been my kind of journey. And I started my Instagram, which is where I found you, with a secret blog 3 years ago, because I got pregnant, and my first pregnancy was an emergency cesarean, which was awful, like horrendous, so powerless. I was just, things were done to me as happens in the birth world. You think you have no control, so I did. And I suffered with a lot of, if I spoke about the birth after, I would shake. I would literally get cold. I'd sort of go into a bit of shock because I'm sure I just had some kind of post-traumatic thing. I've
Right.
never labeled myself, but I think that's what I had. So this, when I got pregnant again, what I knew I had to do things differently. So I started a secret Instagram called My Secret Bump and blogged in, like, anonymously blogged my journey. But along the way, kind of got people interested, became unanonymous in the end. But I didn't go to hospital. I didn't have any scans. I did things very differently. And it was really funny because one of the ladies I read a book from, she is called Unassisted Childbirth, or Laura Shanley, I think. She had all her babies at home, but she mentioned Abraham Hicks in the book. She just said, she more or less talked about birthing using the law of attraction and everything. And with everything else I'd read, I just, by the end, I knew that I was going to have this baby at home. Whereas at the beginning, I was so close to, say, going to the hospital and saying, I want cesarean. I don't even want to deal with it. But there was the start of my journey. So when I had him upstairs within 4 hours and had this spiritual experience of like, wow, it wasn't me. I had like an out of body experience of my body birthing the baby and me just observing it. It's very strange. That's when Mothers Who Manifest was birthed afterwards, because I was just like even more like excited of
Right.
healing and sharing, and because people were waiting for me to give birth, so I was thinking, please let me do it. but I think I surrendered out attachment to the outcome as well.
Right.
I was really,
Exactly.
and I don't know if you knew that I had some sessions with a lady called Sharon King doing matrix birth re-imprinting, and we went through the old birth and rewired my brain. So after one session with her, I stopped shaking and crying talking about it. Just
Oh,
after
wow.
doing that. That's incredible. It's not a difficult process either. It's just using EFT and going back to every single trigger and changing the memory, because it's so powerful. And after 5 sessions with her, we had re-imprinted the birth how I wanted it to be. And I suppose there was still a part of me thinking, well, skeptical, but it felt good, so I did it. And when I messaged her after I had him, I said, Sharon, it was exactly as we'd re-imprinted. She went, I'll never get tired of hearing that.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. And so that's where I started. And then I sort of tinkered around the whole birthing for a little while before now at my Instagram is Mishelle Bee, because I'm just like, oh, there's more subjects.
So much more. Yeah. That's so cool. So when after you gave birth, you sort of had this supernatural experience, I would say, if you were outside your body.
Well, I've never said that before like that. I suppose it would be. And
yeah, the only reason why I say that is because about 4 years ago, I was at a convent, and I was on a retreat, and I had a supernatural experience, one that I can't even explain. Like I can't explain it, because it was more of an energy and a feeling of complete love. That's where it transitioned, that we are all love. Like,
wow.
yeah. So it sounds like, and I sort of had an out of body experience as well. So yeah, it's
amazing.
pivotal. It's a pivotal moment.
Yeah, I think for me, ever since that moment, so I don't feel like it was a complete out of body experience, but I think the sensation I got was I was able to experience the tremendous pressure and everything that's happening, your muscles are like working, and your body's actually making the sounds like people said they would. I hadn't experienced it before, and I had to go on, thankfully, because of the Instagram, I was surrounded by people, complete supporters, which is what I had to do, which is why I didn't tell my family. I just thought, I don't want anyone influencing me. I have to do this, surround myself completely, everything. And so that support was incredible. But the sounds that my body made weren't me. It was like, I wasn't doing it. And that's what people said. And you can't, I was thinking, how does that, I didn't get it, but now I get it. And so even now during my like tough times, I almost can have that, I'm me, but me. I'm my higher self, And
Yes.
I know there's a part of me that's like knows that everything is fine. For instance, the last few days, actually, with stuff that's been going on, and where I am on my cycle, all this stuff, I can take a dive, but know on that level that everything's fine.
Yes.
But I'm still experiencing that sort of temporary suffering, if you like, but witnessing it.
That's
And
right. Yeah.
it's just, that's, since then, it's just nothing's as serious anymore.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. Very cool. And you mentioned Mothers Who Manifest. That's when Mothers Who Manifest started. So maybe share with the listeners, what that's all about.
Yeah, well, I think at the time, it's funny because I remember reading a Gabrielle Bernstein book when my baby was newborn. So I'm there, I've just, had this birth, it's brilliant. And just with any manifestation, it doesn't take long before it's like, we've got the thing, what's next? Oh, I've done it wears off a little bit. And I'm reading, I think it was Judgment Detox or whatever book she had out. And at the time that was fine for me. And I think something in there mentioned her doing yoga retreats or doing something, and I remember my little mind going, "Oh, it's all right for you. You haven't got children. You can go and do 7 hours of yoga, or you could do, there's me with my milk dripping and me on the bed and thinking, what about spiritual practice for mums? Like, how do we get our meditation in and do the journaling and do this work?" And I'd already sort of built up a big routine through the pregnancy. I needed to make it a sacred journey. And that's when I just thought Mothers Who Manifest, just the wording, I don't really use the word mothers so much, but the wording fitted. So I thought, I wonder if I could sort of start something to help mums, like, we can do meditation while we're breastfeeding or feeding the baby or while the baby's sleeping. I found that I could make excuses if I wanted, but I could also keep my connection.
Right.
Like, it was just, I had to tweak things a little bit. So I started a Facebook group, and I was so excited about it that it grew very quickly. Like, I think within 6 months I had about 800 people in there, and I was doing lives every day with babies in the sling. It's me up at 7, no makeup, nursing. I just wasn't bothered about
You were just being real.
Since then, yeah, I was at the time. I've had some wobble since. But all sorts of stuff has happened since, so it's all fine. But it showed why it grew quickly as well, because when you're passionate about, I was just so happy to do it, and I was sharing stuff from, even if it was just picking up a book and reading a quote and just having a chat about it, and sharing all the things I've learned and getting all excited about, women finding their voice and that kind of thing. And so for a time, that group, and I actually launched a program as well at the time, got myself a coach and launched very quickly. It just felt good. And then what happened was, which I've not explained anywhere before, really, the week before my course was launched, I found out my husband was messing about. And so it's so funny because although another thing, that was the last I'm intending, that's the last piece of drama that is ever going to be in my life, big drama that's ever going to be in my life. And I'm so grateful for it now. Completely manifested. I believe I create my own reality, and looking back, I can see exactly why things have happened. But at the time, I didn't quite see it. Obviously, at the time, I reacted like most people would. But thankfully, it didn't take me too long to just think, right, I've got a decision here. Seeing my children, I can either make this really bad for them and me,
right,
or I've got decisions to make. And that's been a work in progress, even from earlier this year. But it was interesting because I think I shared on Instagram post this week, I was looking back, flicking through some of my journals and seeing how I've all in my life, before any kind of success, if you like, or before doing something I really want to do, like this course, I've like I've had something come up and just stop it. So I know it's quite hard to think that we do that ourselves, but it's not conscious, but we kind of create these scenarios to go,
I agree,
stop us. And so that's been my final, I say final, I'm really intending it to be the final. I've kind of had everything, It's like, right, it's like the birth thing, and then so now we're co-parenting, fine, You know,
Yeah,
we're
I
really
see. It's beautiful.
parenting really well, and I still get mainly triggered by him. I believe he's my teacher to trigger me, but I don't have to live with him to have that. He can be my teacher from there. But I am grateful for him for so many things. But to get to this point and have made peace with the way I was parented, that's a whole another topic as well.
That's right.
You know, and the whole, even the Jehovah's Witnesses, I've done my own little ways of just so recognizing that this is what I chose. That's what I believe that I
Right.
chose. Not necessarily the whole journey. I've made choices in this lifetime, but just brought me to here. And I have so much, like, even if I feel a bit big-headed saying it, it's given me wisdom. That's
Right.
it. It's just given me so much wisdom. And now that's where I'm at, really. So with Mothers Who Manifest, I closed down the group because I fell apart a little bit over that time.
Over that, yeah.
And I think it was fine because there was people that, because I wasn't truly myself either, and this is another part of the journey. I've got a mentor now. I've been with her for just over 5 weeks. Cannot begin to tell you the changes that's made. She's calling me out on my allowed to swear on my bullshit. She's really calling me out and just blasting through the limits that I'm
putting on yourself.
Come up. And the more, because I wasn't really being myself and wasn't talking about the things I really wanted to talk about, more out there, I suppose, I was attracting the people that weren't really for me and that weren't that bothered. And so that's why it felt aligned to start again, you know, shut the group down and start again. So,
Yeah, for sure.
but I'm still doing the podcast, the Mothers Who Manifest podcast. That's just at the moment me, I think, because I'm not even as organised to have put series in. I think at the moment it's just an outlet for me to share. And then at some point something's going to fall into place.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's synchronicities, right? So things will, yeah, definitely. No, I've listened to a few episodes of the podcast. It's great. It's great just hearing your story and hearing your thoughts on that particular moment when you decide to record. So it's awesome.
Thank you.
It's awesome. So now you mentioned the Alignment Lounge. Can you share a little bit about what that is with the listeners?
Yes. Well, I took a year. So last year, even though I reinvested in my business coach and I tried to carry on, I tried to push through this thing after my relationship broke down. I just thought, no, think positive, you know, and I really tried to push through. And then about middle of the year, I completely crashed. I just thought, because one thing I forgot to mention was in March, I decided to stop drinking. This was after years of trying to just cut down and try and stop drinking because, and not that I had necessarily, I should say drinking problem, I'm not an alcoholic, but there's that middle road, another big subject, the middle road of a lot of people drink most days, or, I need to drink to relax, or got to get home, have a glass of wine, you know, that kind of thing was becoming the norm for me, and it had done for a long time. And I knew that to help get my life to where I wanted to go, drink had to go. And I've not answered your question about the Alignment Lounge. I'm trying to give a little bit of a background. But with the whole, giving up drink, I read a book called This Naked Mind, and it said at the beginning of the book that by the end of this book, you won't want to drink again. And I was there with the glass of wine, like, we'll see. And by the end of that book, I never drunk again. It wasn't a force. It wasn't an efforting. It was it worked. But and it was an incredible book, and the lady's amazing. But so I still had a lot of healing to do, and I spent the last part of the year then just, I don't know, just trying to sort myself back out. That's when I had fell upon all sorts of different teaching. Oh, that's right. I started my QSEA coaching academy. So Quantum Success Coaching Academy.
Okay.
I stumbled upon some teachings by Sanaya Roman. I don't know if you ever heard of Sanaya Roman. They changed my life. All of them have changed my life and really, really helped me find my power again. And it was in January I started a podcast, and it's now I feel I'm back. Like I'm back way more than before. So the Alignment Lounge is the group that I opened up recently, because it's almost like I can't keep it in anymore. I need to get back onto it again. And it's nice to have a group, because like today I did a live tapping in my group. I was there for an hour. But I was able to share funny stuff and personal things that I wouldn't necessarily do on my page.
Right.
I started going live on my page, but I have to say that I still have fear of thinking, who's watching me? People from my old life, you know, watching.
Right.
And not that it's going to stop me, but it's just nice to have that little. And I thought the Alignment Lounge is quite nice. It's a place to, you know, go to raise your vibration and feel good, really.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And anybody can join?
Yeah, I think there's not a women only rule. Really.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I think it's
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I just wanted to share, I think it's important just to mention, on one of your stories, you talked about, you know, body image, and it's really important to, I guess, be positive with the food that you put in your mouth. And I just thought, you know, you don't see that people talking about that too much, but I think it's going to become really popular. And I just thought, I just wanted your perspective on that, and what your thoughts are. And yeah,
it's huge, isn't it? The wellness industry now, and what's good right for us and what's wrong for us, what's good and what's bad. Even in this sort of spiritual world, we're seeing high vibrational foods are good, and then low vibrational foods are bad. And I'm sort of at the beginning of my journey. So ever since I was 16, I was on a diet. So I remember joining a slimming club in the UK with all my family. We all went along every week. It was fun. But from a very young age, was weighing my food, measuring my food, weighing myself, judging myself, no matter what the scale said, whether I was a good person or a bad person, you know. And then once I've realized that last March, once it's been 18 months now, when I stopped drinking, my food, I was almost like eating more of like kind of binging on stuff, really.
Right.
And so just using something else
Yeah,
as
yeah.
a bit of a coping thing. And I stumbled upon a book called Intuitive Eating, which is written quite a few years ago, and it's really, really good. But then, of course, there's that cycle of judgment, self-judgment. So I stopped dieting. I got rid of scales. I thought, I'm not doing this anymore. But inevitably, I started gaining weight, and I'm about 2 stone. I don't know how much that is in kilograms. You guys do kilograms. Over what I sort of always have. And then that's just even more judgment on myself, especially after what my husband, what's happened. So I'm like, oh, I'm this person. And so I thought, right, I need to stop this now. Because I tried going vegan for a bit. It was hard. And then when I wasn't vegan, felt bad because I eaten dairy or something.
Yeah.
There's just so much judgment around food. And with my law of attraction coaching, Abraham Hicks talks a lot about food and dieting. You can put in YouTube, Google food, and there's so much information. And their message is that it really is only about how we're feeling. And I listened to that quite a lot, and quite a long time ago, but it's almost too good to be true. My diet, I've still got that whole diet thing ingrained. In fact, I'm on a freedom from food. I don't know what it's actually called, but I've invested in an eating psychologist and sort of counselling in that area. It's someone in the States that has been on this journey. She used to be a bikini model, and suffered with all sorts of eating disorders. And she has put together just an amazing thing, and going through that is really helping me.
Okay.
It's so funny, the women in there, they're all different shapes and sizes, but some have gone from the anorexic bulimia thing, and some have come from the whole binging on food thing. And although I wouldn't say I had a massive problem, no more than someone else down the road trying to lose weight and then putting it on, and then trying to lose weight and putting it on. That's what we do, because that's what we've always done, and that's what society instills in us.
That's right.
I had a neighbour's little girl in the other day, and she said something about her dad being fat, and I was like, what's wrong with being fat? I was like, questioning her. But that's a whole sort of different subject. This is more about how we feel about ourselves when we're eating something.
That's right.
And it's not denying. I think it's a big subject, so we've got to be careful here, because people say, oh, you're encouraging eating this and that and the other. But even in my the course that I'm on, the first step is kind of a process, and the first step is that I need to feel not restricted in any way.
That's right.
Because it's almost like such a relief.
That's right.
You know, one of the reasons why I wasn't why I've gone a bit crazy in my life with all the things I've done, is because I wasn't allowed to do any of it when I was a kid. I wasn't allowed to swear. I wasn't allowed a boyfriend. I wasn't allowed to just, you know. And so all those things became really taboo. And it's one reason why I do unschooling, more or less. I don't massively 100% unschool, but the only thing that was unrestricted when I was a kid was television. It's really interesting. My mum and dad, like, we were allowed to watch it. There was a few things I wasn't allowed to watch, but on the whole, that wasn't classed as bad or wrong. And I don't hardly watch telly now, and it kind of proves the point.
That's right.
I'm on my screen, my phone, but it kind of like, wow. And my children, the screens are free range, and it's so interesting to watch children that come to my house where it's restricted at home, and they're glued. They're like, and you're trying to speak, and they're just
Yeah.
that's really interesting. But it's the same with food. As soon as where the intuitive eating encourages you to let yourself go, and it might mean a bit of weight gain, but you don't, once you have these things, sometimes you just once you're allowed something, you don't want it anymore.
Exactly. But I think that's why, you know, with diets, you tend to, they typically work, but you restrict yourself so much.
Yeah.
And then when it's not sustainable, you know.
No, and when we remember that our beliefs create our reality.
That's right.
So what we believe about food will show up for us. And that's I don't know if you've come across Seth. Obviously, I think you'll love Seth. I bought some of my books because I'm doing something. But no, on the back, Marianne Williamson's actually, there are a few people that have written, what's that thing when they write about the book? But Marianne Williamson.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called. Marianne Williamson said that Seth was her first metaphysical teacher. And he's got a book called, I say he, I think it's a he. Says in there about, it's called The Nature of Personal Reality. I really recommend that. It's one of my.
Oh yes, I've heard of it. It's on my list of books to read. Yeah.
It's quite challenging read. Sometimes I just have to put it down or read it again. But he says in there, which I don't think the world's ready for this yet, although Joe Dispenza, all this stuff going this way, is that if you believe a chemical is going to affect you, it will. And it's really it's a really interesting topic, because even the Netflix documentaries that are kind of there's people in them that I read the books of that say about certain things like aspartame and all this stuff, that I do look at that, and I try and direct my children away from it if I can. But our beliefs create our reality, then what is it? What is it all about? And some of the work I've read by various people say that as we raise our vibration, and we're literally evolving as beings, that eventually, and if you do believe that there are other beings, other kind of species or whatever, it will get to a point, this is what I'm open to believing this, but will food affect us? Like, will it affect us? We are heading that way, I think, with but I just think it's interesting, because I'm like, I want to eat anything. But even Rhonda Byrne, who wrote The Secret, she's written in there that she basically trained her beliefs to go, I can eat anything and still be this weight, or be this size and this fit and healthy. And why, if we believe we create our reality, why not that as well?
Exactly. In my metaphysical course, they say to, before you eat anything, you have to bless it and say that it's not, I can eat it, it's not going to affect me. It's just for nutrition.
Wow.
And get into that mentality to put it in your mind. Because I think every time we have something that in our minds is not healthy, we have this guilt as we're eating it. And that's worse. That's worse than actually eating the food.
Vibration.
Yeah. That's like the lowest on the scale, so no, that's cool. Well, we have a few minutes left. So I just wanted you to really just share the 30 days to joy before we end the call, if you can.
Yeah. Okay. So I mentioned that I'm sort of back. and I've got a new mentor. So I'm back in the space of really feeling like I know what my purpose is, you know, sort of like similar thing, sharing all this amazing stuff that we're learning. And so I was inspired just to start a program called 30 Days to More Joy. And actually, it's quite funny because I launched it before Abraham Hicks, before I recently went to Amsterdam to see Abraham Hicks for my first time. And it just wasn't feeling right. So I cancelled it. I think I had a bit of fear there as well. It was like, oh, no. I cancelled it, came back from Abraham Hicks. And I was like, yes, I was so buzzing. I still am so buzzing from it. And it's now feels so aligned. So it starts tomorrow because it's 30 days through September. However, it's once people are in, they have access to do it at their own pace. And so
Right.
it's going to be open group. And it's something that I will be doing again as well. And it's sort of designed for people to have bite-sized self-care every day. So every day they're going to be getting an activity or something, whether it's a journal prompt to dig deep and recognize what are the thoughts that are stealing our joy, because it is only down to our thoughts that produce the feeling.
Exactly.
That's it. Once we can manage to go, hold on a minute, I'm feeling this way, I need to shift it, which is what I've learned through Abraham teachings. And it's not just that, there'll be sort of meditate, there's all sorts of things in there. In fact, because it's based intuitively, I don't know yet what it's going to fully be, because it'll just come through just depending on the end of the group, because I know I'm quite good at picking up what people might need, and I know I'll have benefits as well. So yeah, I'm really excited just to be back in, and it's out of my comfort zone, but of course that brings exhilaration, doesn't it, and fulfillment when you're like,
Yes,
doing it.
When you're outside of your comfort zone, I mean, that's where you grow, right? That's
absolutely.
You know, that's what makes it exciting. You know, it's scary at first, but you just take that step and the universe, God will make it work.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's funny it's another subject as well, but the money, sort of recognizing, so I haven't got a problem with receiving money through sort of different means, but when it comes to my thing has been like, from my services, asking for money has been a real challenge for me to move through and know that this is an energy exchange, you know, like it's
exactly
priceless actually. With when you get transformation, it's just, and so it's a really interesting subject for me to do. But yes,
no, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Mishelle. Thanks.
No worries. It's lovely speaking to you.
It'd be interesting to see doing another interview next year and see where you're at in terms of your spiritual journey, because I know I've seen just a little bit of a comment. I saw some of your older videos and some of your videos now, and you've come out of your shell for sure.
What, on YouTube or?
I think it would have been on YouTube.
I just started doing a few more. There's so many things, isn't there, to do? I want to do that. I want to do that. But yeah, I think so. I'm finding being more yourself, like we were saying.
Totally.
This, being more me, and just letting go of perfection, letting go of the judgment of what other people think.
Yeah.
And you've just got to do it because it's fun.
Using your intuition and sharing and talking about it, I think it's great. So what I'll do is I'll put all the information that we talked about in the notes below so they can follow you. And thank you so much for taking the time.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. See you later.
Okay.